Good evening, Pankaj. Good evening, Anushka. Thanks for joining. So, I think people are still trickling in, so maybe we'll give a couple of minutes to start. I'll do a brief introduction and then I'll hand over the stage to you. Is that fine, Pankaj?
Yeah, sure. I'm assuming you are able to hear me fine.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Do you want to test screen sharing if you want to try out?
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Uh, mm. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So I have put a GitHub repository. This is public in place, which where I have put in a bunch of tutorials, which we'll walk through today. But these are pretty much self-help in nature, so anybody should be able to walk through most of the stuff that we are going to see today by just following these tutorials.
So maybe we can get started. I'll start with the introductions. So, welcome everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining the call for the learning session on Track-3, that is Agentic AI applications for real world issues. Today's speaker is Mr. Pankaj Dhoolia. He's a senior technical staff member at IBM Research, specializing in conversational AI and generative AI. Pankaj works closely with IBM's Watsonx Orchestrate product team, and he also contributes to its core agentic patterns. Today we'll talk about what's the next platform as well as the specifics of how to go about addressing or developing applications for this specific track. So thanks Pankaj for joining. Over to you.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
Just 1 minute, Pankaj. Sorry to interrupt you. A couple of announcements I forgot to mention. So you won't be able to unmute yourself during the talk, but there is a Q&A session, tab. If it's not visible, if you click on the three button menu, and you'll see a Q&A tab on which you can ask questions. and some of the hosts will answer the queries, or we'll take up the queries towards the end after the presentation ends. We'll also request you to unmute yourself and ask the questions directly after the presentation part ends. So you please hold your questions, and either you ask them in Q&A or ask them by unmute yourself towards the end. So thank you for your attention. Thanks. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not that well versed with Zoom. Therefore, if you see somebody asking a question, and it's relevant that I should address it right there, then feel free to interrupt me and just ask it. Okay. Okay. So IBM Watsonx platform actually consists of several things, several core fundamental products, so to say. So there is Watsonx AI, which offers primarily the models side of the world, models, the hosted models. Then there is the Watsonx Orchestrate, which is more focused towards actually building the agents, building AI agents. Of course, it leverages the models through an AI gateway back to the Watsonx AI. And there are others like Watsonx Data, which focuses more on specifically data and data related aspects. Uh, I'll today focus mainly on Watsonx Orchestrate, and that to the ADK, the agent development kit of it. And even in there, because I do understand that if you have to um, carry on beyond the trial phase and you don't want to pay for the things, and you want your local development to be enabled, then there is a developer edition in here. So I'll specifically focus on the developer edition, which hosts all the server side components on Docker on your local machine, and then you can uh, pretty much get the same kind of experience that you would get on the cloud on your local machine as well. And you can test stuff in there and then finally push to the SaaS product, your agents. So I'll today cover mainly through a bunch of tutorials some of the capabilities of the ADK, and primarily hands-on in a hands-on manner. So after the session, you can on your own work using the ADK and build your agents. That's sort of my aim today. So, and I have created a GitHub repo. I'll share this link after the session as well. So all the things that we are going to talk about are covered in there. So let me first of all know if my screen is visible in sufficient, from a size perspective, it's not too small and you can follow through. Um, if it is small, let me know. I can increase the size further. Otherwise, I'll start with this anyway. Okay. So Watsonx Orchestrate ADK Developer Edition, that's the one that we're going to focus on. So first thing there then is to how do you install it on your machine? That's the very first thing. So like I said, I mean, you can, in containerized environments on your machine, you can, the server side components of it would be, can be hosted and you can work off it purely just locally. So you begin by making sure that you have a containerized environment on your machine. You can use Docker Desktop, or you can use Rancher Desktop license uh, if license issues do not allow you to use Docker. You can use Rancher as well. There are some specialized instructions. If you use Rancher, you have to configure them in a particular manner. I'll just briefly flash them. So there are certain things, certain choices that you have to make. Those are kind of through this link you can see these things. And So once you have this Docker container environment set up on your machine, again, there are certain hardware recommendations. If you have 16 GB RAM, for example, minimum, then you should be able to operate. We recommend 32. And a multi-core CPU, like 8 CPU, is something that we recommend here. And further thing, because there is a brief license or your entitlement check that's going to happen. So you need to have access to um, any of at least one of these services. Like for models, you would go through Watsonx AI, but if you have access to Watson Orchestrate, then that entitlement suffices for you to access it. So at least one of these services you got to have access to. Getting access to these is pretty straightforward. Like let me just quickly show. So if you have so on your IBM Cloud account, you will need to create a new instance of these services if you don't already have. You can just search here, like you can search for Watsonx AI runtime or Watsonx Orchestrate, and you will get the services, and you can just follow through the process of creating a light version. Even standard versions for a period of time are free, or there is a freemium style model. Certain size of workloads are free, and then beyond that you pay. So you can create those instances. Then they'll appear in your dashboard like this. So let's say what's the next uh, AI service is something that you've created. So you can then you can click on that service, and it will bring you to something like this. This is what's the next AI landing. Here, you will have to create a deployment space in order for your models to be kind of within that space. So, which is again very straightforward. You kind of just add a new deployment space and just follow through pretty much the defaults, and you'll have that access. So you go through this process. Once this ensures that, okay, you have containerized environment on your machine, you have access to the corresponding what's next service. And then we go beyond. So now we set up locally. So um, we need to set up IBM Watsonx Orchestrate library. We need this to be set up. So we can create if you create a VS Code workspace, then set up. I recommend using UV. It's particularly good as a package manager, Python package manager. So here's some instructions to install UV to begin with. Then you can, for your playground, you can create a directory. You can go to that directory, initialize the virtual environment for this, and then you can add IBM Watsonx Orchestrate to that virtual environment. This will install the Python library necessary for Orchestrate, and then you can activate the environment. Once you have this environment activated, now next thing is to make sure that you create um, a .env, a configuration file basically, with the right kind of entitlements in it. So there are two ways to get entitlement for this. I recommend this second one. In here, so you go to my IBM kind of a page. So let's say you go, this is given your IBM ID, you log in, this is where you will come in. So on this page, there is this container software and entitlement keys. If you click on this, you go here. If you don't already have an entitlement key, if you have, then you can just directly copy that, and that should suffice. Otherwise, you can just add new key, and this will allow you to generate one. This will generate an entitlement key that you can copy. And once you have this, then you can set up a simple env file like this. So in here, you will have my IBM as the developer edition source, the entitlement key that we sort of just saw how to generate. Then what's the next API key, which will be on IBM Cloud, just generate an API key that should serve as what's the next API key. And then what's the next space ID, what I just showed. When you create this deployment space, you will have a space ID. So that's the space ID that we are talking about. So then you'll have all of these. So just these four things are what you need in your .env. And in your VS Code folder, just put this .env and you are ready to start. So first thing we got to do is just install this. So the same command is going to both installs and starts the server. So you just so once you have installed this IBM Watsonx Orchestrate library, you will have in your Python environment, you will have the Orchestrate command line interface. So Orchestrate is that command. So you can now orchestrate server start with the env that we just created. So if you do this, then this will start by first getting all the Docker images of the various components, and then it'll start those corresponding Docker servers, and once everything is complete, you would see something like this at the bottom. It will say migration ran successfully, waiting for this to be fully initialized, and then it will initialize it, and it'll say that I don't have any environment. So it'll say refresh local credentials, and then it'll advise you to orchestrate. Orchestrate is the CLI, env is the command, and it's by saying activate local, we are saying we want to activate a local server, a local environment, so that when we do any further orchestrate commands, they are applied to the local environment. So you can just then run this command right after server start to set your environment to the local. Right. So once you set it that way, then you should now be able to access, Open API documentation, etc. So if I click on this guy, I think I have this running already. So you'd see like full WxO server APIs. This is Swagger doc. So you can just access this right here. So this will let you know that, yeah, everything is correctly set up. You have the server running locally and you're ready to roll. We also have another component called Copilot Server. Copilot Server is in its nascence at the moment, so I won't talk too much about it, but its role simply is it offers a conversational interface to do some of the things. For example, one key thing it offers is if you're trying to build an agent in a particular domain and you want to kind of hone in on what should be the right kind of prompt, you can talk to the Copilot server and it will conversationally lead you towards what should be your prompt and instructions to the agent. So that is something that you can do with Copilot. And again, you start it the same way as we started the Orchestrate server. So you can just say the same kind of manner. You just say Copilot start, giving the same .env, and it should show you that it's successfully started. Right. So once you've done this once, what you can now do is you can add one additional thing, this WO, which is what's an Orchestrate. Developer edition skip login. So if you add this to this environment file, what it will do is next time on when you run orchestrate server start, it wouldn't try and update the images and so on. It will work with the images that you already have. And that's generally good because it saves some time of this trying to see, do I have new images? Shall I download them? And so on. So you don't have to worry about that if you set this skip login for developer edition, this environment, if you set it to true. Right. So that's how you kind of just get started on it. If you would need to stop these, you can obviously orchestrate server stop and it will stop all the containers and so on. Similarly, Copilot stop, and that will stop the corresponding containers in your environment. Right, so that was about installation. If there is any ambiguity, etc., you can ask me about that now or even later. Otherwise, I'll just carry on with the rest of the tutorials in here. So there are a bunch of tutorials in here. These are the ones that we are going to walk through. So there is this hello world in which we'll try and focus on just understanding how we specify an agent, how we specify tools, and how do we use Orchestrate CLI to import these things into our server and play with it. That's the hello world. So we'll go through these specs. Then we'll go through a slightly more elaborate scenario with customer support agent. So here we'll build an agent with which will connect to an enterprise API. We'll use ServiceNow in this, and then it'll demonstrate how you use typically when there is a authentication based API that your agent needs to use. How's the agent getting access to those credentials and so on. So we'll see that in this one. Then we'll look at can we, in a no code experience kind of a manner, can we use just purely UI side to build agents, attach knowledge sources to the agent, and also configure kind of multilingual support. We'll go through that then. We'll also see how with very simple switch from the local environment, if we just how we can easily add actual SaaS environment. If we have a Watsonx Orchestrate instance, how you can simply just add one more environment which points to your SaaS, and how you can pretty much follow the same process. But now, since your CLI, your environment is pointing to the SaaS, how you can run the same commands pretty much to just push import tools there using the CLI from your VS Code environment, and create agents like that. So we'll see that here. Then we'll also see how your agent can use MCP servers. So we'll see how it can you do that in no code manner on SaaS, and also in the developer edition with just the CLI here. And finally, we'll see how once we've built these agents, when we start to use them, how do we configure our agent server for observability with platforms like Langfuse. And as people are playing with our agents, how do we see the traces of the trajectories that the agent is following? How do we debug those trajectories? So these are some of the things that we'll get down to. Okay, so I'll begin with this hello world. So I'll click here. This will open the hello world README. So in this, so here are some of the steps that we'll do. So you can create a hello world folder in your VS Code. I have this created already right in here. And what you can then do is, then we can create an agent by as simple by just specifying something like this. Let's just quickly have a look at. So this is the representation of how an agent can be specified. So spec version, this is the agent specification version, V1, not much of interest there. Kind native, meaning that this is a native agent. It's not an external agent, etc. A linked thing is style. So there are multiple agent styles that we support. There is obviously you would have heard a lot of React, reason, act, observe style agent. You would have heard of plan act, where you plan, you reason, plan, and then execute the plan. There is code act, where you reason, but you create the plan as a piece of code that integrates the tools that you have as a code snippet and so on. So those are styles. Then you just specify the name of your agent. This is greeter in this hello world case. You specify a description of the agent, and then you specify some instructions. These are the instruction. Essentially, this is your prompt of how the agent, how you want the agent to operate, and how these instructions it'll use while it constructs the prompt for the LLM. Then you also specify what LLM you want to use. So this is we're saying we're going to use Llama from Watsonx platform, and that's the version that we're going to use in here. And then there is a notion of collaborators. So an agent can use other agents. So there can be a supervisory agent with multiple agents available to it, and it can based on the query coming in, it can decide, is any of my other collaborators more suitable? So in which case it will simply delegate to that. Otherwise, it will use the tools that it has available. So that's sort of the thing. So collaborators are other agents that it can use. And then there are tools. So tools are, we'll shortly see. So this is the agent spec. So I'm going to just use, I've pasted this already in this greeter.yaml that we'll shortly see. And then to create a tool, so you can create tools in Python. You can have tools already there in a hosted somewhere with an open API spec around what all tools are there. You could have an MCP server. So a bunch of ways in which you can have tools. Here so for the purpose of our creating our agents, we'll assume that we might need to write our own tool. So this is in that theme. So we got to decorate any function, any Python function. You can decorate it with this from IBM Watsonx Orchestrate library in this package tool. You decorate it just like that, and then it will automatically pull based on the documentation in here, based on the type hints in the signature, both for return as well as input. It will automatically extract the details, the detailed description of the tool. So that's what this add tool decorator would do. And so this is it. So this is the simple tool for our Hello World program. So once we now let's see here. So we have this greeter YAML. This is the same thing that we just saw there. And then in this tools folder, we have that tool in here. So we have these things. So once we have these, now we simply need to just import these using the command line, the CLI that we have. So we simply go to the right kind of folder and we can simply just say that I want to use the tools command, import, and the kind of the tool that I have is Python. And then I can say this is the file from which to import the tools. You just run this, it will import the tools in. So if I just take this, it can, and run this in here, it can simply just import them. If you just, I can rerun this. When you rerun this, it doesn't really matter much because it'll just update whatever is currently there. So, and then in a very similar fashion, once you put the tools in, you should do the tools first because the agent banks on these tools, as you can see in the agent spec tools I mentioned. So then you import the agent after you imported the tools. And once you've done both of these, now you're good to start chatting with it. So you can just say orchestrate chat start. So I think I already have this started. So once once you do orchestrate chat start, locally it'll on the local host, you can now access the server. And here you can see, if you see manage agents, you will see the agents like greeter agent is here. So you go in there, you can see the details of this. The same things that we gave as description, etc., are available in here. And the tools that we bound are right in here. And you can actually just start to chat with it. So if I just say greet me, it should understand that, and it should execute the tool. The tool was simply just saying hello world. So that's what it's just saying, hello world. So that's sort of the simple experience, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to take us through. So that's the hello world. Let me know if there is any confusion. with respect to how to start and, in the hello world part. Next, I'll go into a slight more detailed thing. So a customer support agent. So in this example, what we will look at, we want to kind of understand how we integrate with enterprise APIs and how we deal with kind of authentication credentials that might be required for those enterprise APIs. Because most times you're not going to, all APIs that are going to be available to you or your agent are going to be requiring some authentication credentials. So now, in a similar fashion, create a folder. Um, just as a best practice, we can put the agents that we, because every endeavor of ours could actually have multiple agents, one supervisory and then multiple collaborator agents, etc. Similarly, multiple tools. So it's a good practice to organize your agents and agent specs under agents and tools under tools. So you can create these folders, and then you can specify your agent. So we're going to specify a customer care agent in this example. So we'll specify here the style is React, name is that's the model we are going to use. Then a brief description, that customer care for large healthcare institution, etc. So we do that, and it's so in this case, the supervisory agent is this customer care. We're going to create one more agent, which is the service now. So for, let's say, creating tickets regarding something. So that's what the ServiceNow agent will handle. It will handle any ticket related aspects. So we add that as a collaborator in here. And then we also add a bunch of tools, and these are to do with the primary part, like the healthcare benefits, healthcare providers, get my claims, things of that sort. So those are the primary tools that this agent has. And then for anything to do with ticket creation, etc., it's going to just delegate and use this collaborator of its ServiceNow, right? So that's the first agent specification. Then we see the granular ServiceNow agent specification. Again, the style of the agent, name of the agent, LLM we want to use, a brief description. This guy has no collaborator. This is the unit agent sort of, or the building block agent. And then its tools. So it has create ServiceNow, get my ServiceNow incidents, get incidents by number, a bunch of these kinds of tools. Okay. Then I've already created some of these tools in here, and I'll show them. But before we kind of go down there, so we need, in this case, we need to set up an account. So I've put in, so ServiceNow account for developer kind of explorations. It offers free creation of account. So if you go to this URL, you can set up your own account. I have set up mine in here. You can, it's pretty straightforward to set up. You will be granted sort of an instance URL like this. An admin user and some password would be given. So these are things that you will have to know, because you are going to require to use these to access that agent. So, so we can set up this service now. Once we have set that up, what we can then do is, so there is a new concept that I'm going to now introduce. So apart from agent, there is a notion of an application. So the application is an integration construct or a connector construct. So there is a command in the CLI for connections. So orchestrate connections add, and then name of the connection. So what we are doing here, this name could be anything. So we are creating a new connection to a backend sort of an API. So this is the simple way to do that. Add a connection, name it. Once you've named it, the next thing is to kind of, so we have largely two environments. There is a draft environment and a live environment. Draft we test, and live environment when we deploy it for everybody to use. So in this, we are now going to configure this connection that we just created. So configure this connection named same thing that we just named, for a specific environment. So I'm just configuring it for draft right now. We can configure it. Very likely, enterprises give you a staging API for you to test, but then there's the production API that's separate. That's why very likely you will have to configure different URLs for the draft and live. But so here we are configuring a connection named this for the draft environment, and we are creating credentials. You can have either personal credentials or team level credentials. So we are creating a team level credential here, and basic authentication is what we are configuring here. And then we are specifying the instance URL. So in our case, like for ServiceNow, it's going to be something like this. So that's the second thing that we run. And then finally, we actually set the credential. So the admin and the related password that we saw there. So after having configured, now we're going to set the credential. So connection set credentials for the application ServiceNow for that environment. This is the user ID to access, and that's the password to specify. So through the command line, we can just fire these three in succession, putting in the right URL and the password, etc. And that's it. The integration to the back to the enterprise is now set up. So now this name of this integration application that we have put in here, we're going to now use this to during our tool and agent imports, etc. So now when we import tools, for example, so Orchestrate tool import, we've created a bunch of tools. So when we import those, like if I'm importing this guy in here, I'm going to not only specify if this guy requires third-party libraries, then we specify them as requirements text dependencies in there like that. But then we also mention this -a ServiceNow. So it's saying that's the integration to use for this tool, so that this tool can fetch the credentials that we have set up somewhere automatically and in a secure manner from there, and use it while it executes its functions. So that's sort of what it's doing. Now let's see how it accesses the credentials that we have set up in the integration in here in the code. So brief snippet from just the relevant snippet I'll walk through here. So there is, from this Orchestrate run package, there is connections, and then there is connection type. So those are the imports. This is the name of the connection, what we just set up above. This could be this is going to depend on what we set it. So this is what we set it up. So that's the name we are using. And then in the decorator for the tool, we have some of these things like expected credentials. So here we specify that I expect credentials from this app ID, which is ServiceNow, and I expect basic authentication type of credentials. So that's what we specify in the decorator. And then inside the function, we can now access those things using the connections. So connections, basic auth, that connection name. Now we can get the credentials in here. And if we are now, whatever library that we use downstream now has access to those credentials in a secure manner, and rest of the stuff is going to be just however you would have coded it otherwise. So only thing that's being protected here is the credentials for your integration. They are sitting separately in an integration. You can change it. They are externally managed, and there is a ADK provides the right kind of provision through its library for you to be able to access that integration and get the necessary credentials from there, use them, and execute. So that's sort of the path in here. The same code is actually, if we go in detail in here, we can, in the tools in ServiceNow, we can see exactly full details of this and exactly how it's using them. I'm not going to go through the details of the tool itself. This is available. The code is available. You can look through it in detail. One additional thing I've done in here is that rather than one by one importing all the tools, I've also packed here simple uh, a simple script, which you can use to, you can say that all the tools that are there in this tools folder or recursively in its subfolders, just go ahead and import them all. So this is what this script is doing, that it's going to recursively hunt in your tools. And for all of them, if there is a requirements.txt mentioned in the tools, then it'll use that requirements.txt. It'll use the and it's going to use that in the app ID. Of course, you'll have to specify and modify per what your stuff is, but rest of the stuff in here is generic. You can use the same import all for any of the other agents as well. So it'll import all the tools in here. I've For the agents, I've not done the same thing. That's simply because the agents, there are dependencies between agents. So one of the agents needs to be done before the other one. Like since customer care agent uses this guy as a collaborator, so we have to first import this guy and then this. So that's why for the agents, we are doing it this way. And that shouldn't be much of a problem because number of agents is going to be significantly less than number of tools. Therefore, for tools to be able to import all like that makes more sense. For agents, they need to respect the dependencies if there are in. So like that. So you can simply just fire this particular import all script, and it will actually import all the tools in here and all the agents, and then you will have that available in your local environment as well. So I have already kind of done that. So we can in back in here, uh, those are already in here. Like this is the ServiceNow agent with the description that we specified in the YAML, the tools that we bound, they are also in here. So all of this is here. And similarly, this customer care agent is also there. So not only would it have tools, but it would also have the agents bound. So you can see that this depends on ServiceNow agent. Right. So once you have this, now you can actually, let me get back to this. So once all this is there, we can actually just, run any of these. We can try any of these things in here. So this is asking for benefits. Yeah, so this is showing all the benefits like this. Okay, so one additional thing to note in here is that its thought process is available for looking at things in more detail. So you can actually see, you can say, show me the reasoning and see this. So, okay, so it shows that I actually called the tool get healthcare benefits, passed it the following input, and then it actually seemed to have encountered some error. Then it did it again. So, and this time it did it with the, so maybe it got this in-network thing wrong before, so corrected it, and then it got the necessary results, and then it's printing, generating a response based on that. Okay, so you can see some of these things in here as well. Now, okay, so let's, okay, so we are done with this. Next, I'll move on to this no code experience. So how do you build an agent quickly, purely within just using the UI? So that process again is pretty simple. So here I built one. So what you could just do is, so you could just say create new agent in here, and once you create new agent, you will see you will come to this. Here you can just drop in, we can rename this also, of course, but you can then drop in what the description of the agent is. You can drop in some of these quick start prompts. If your agent, some frequently asked questions are there, you can drop them in this quick start prompts area. Then you can pick a style, default style or React style. Then you can also add knowledge. You can actually insert a bunch of documents and so on in here as well. So that's another thing you could do. Then you can add tools to it. You could even add agents. So in this agent, I just simply added ServiceNow agent because I just want to focus here on that. It's really simple. You can just, you can do this. You can say add an agent from local, it'll show you all this, and then you can pull that and add that as a collaborator. So it's kind of simple like this. Similarly, if you want to add a tool, you can say add tool. You can either import. If you import, then you can import from MCP server, etc. also. But you could also say I want to just use the things that are already available. You can search through them, etc. So like I could even, so if I so you can just simply search using that, and you should be able to get and add the ones that you want. So you can, that's the toolset part, tools and agents. Then there is one small thing that is also there. You can add new behaviors in here, like if you want like multilingual support or things like that, you can add that. And there is for channels, there are really quite a few channels that are supported. Maybe I should just quickly rather show this thing in here. So I'll go to this. So if we, there's this agent. So if we look at, so now I'm on the SaaS version. So in here, you can see that out of the box, we have integrations with, if you want to have your agent embed in Microsoft Teams, there is support in WhatsApp, there's support Facebook Messenger, Slack. So there is out of the box support for a number of these channels that's there. So if you want your agent to be living or be embedded in any of those, you can follow through the process from here. And this is what I wanted to also show. So you can actually just specify some behavioral overrides in here. So I'm just saying, so I'm adding here, like, pay attention to the language. If the user is asking something in one language, then you reply in just that language. That's sort of what I've specified. And what we can try one simple thing in here. So if I ask this guy in here in Hindi now, so something like मुझे अपने बेटे के कान दर्द के लिए एक certain place is there, Lowell, उसके पास एक डॉक्टर खोजने में मदद चाहिए. So I can hit this, and hopefully because of some of these behavioral instructions that we have specified here, it should respond accordingly. So you can see that. So interesting part is, so not only did it translate this to English, but it even recognized some of the entities like the place in a corresponding thing, and then it automatically used that entity from the perspective of responding in a tool. So you can see here in tool. So so yeah, you can see all this in here in its reasoning, and finally responds back in this. So I just wanted to show that with small little behavioral modification, where we told it pay attention to the language in which the user is asking and make sure you respond back in the same language. With something as simple as that, we can just add multilingual support as well. So that kind of stuff is handy, right? So this was yet another. So now deploying to SaaS instance, let's just quickly have a look at that also. So this bit is pretty straightforward. For this, you do need the Watsonx Orchestrate key and the service instance, which is easy to get. Like you can, if I So this is where I am. So if I go in here and say settings, I'll come to this page, go to this API details. So here, this is where I can get the service instance URL. So this instance URL, we're going to need to set up a non-local environment. We'll need this URL to our SaaS instance. This is that URL. And then if you already don't have a API key to something in IBM Cloud, then you will need to generate it. But if you have, you can just reuse the same. So these two things we are going to need. Let me go back in here. So these two, and then you can just set up a new environment just like that. So here I'm just saying that add a new environment. The name is my SaaS. And I'm just here saying the URL is the same URL that we got from here. And the type is, because I'm going to use the IBM access management related API key. So I'm saying IBM IM. And then I'm saying further activate it as well. So add a new environment and activate that as well. So once I run this, it's going to on command line ask for WxO API key. And we have to, this either if you generated one or you had one, then you'll have to use that key, paste it in here. And once you hit enter, if that's the correct key, then your SaaS environment is now active. So now if you do that and then you try and list environments, you should be able to see, apart from local, you should be able to see your SaaS environment as well. And since we activated it, so that becomes active now. After this, you can just try like the previous tutorial that we did. Same functionality. I fire the same, create a integration for ServiceNow, specify the enterprise URL with basic authentication, then give the credentials to that basic authentication, and then just import all. So if I run the same things in here once again, this time it's going to deploy, and that's how I deployed it in here, by the way. So this customer care agent was the result of me just firing these things in here, right? So once you have this, then like we just saw, we should be able to see this in here, make changes and things like that. In addition, we could, right in here, we could say deploy. But before we deploy, one thing to do, let's say if I just deploy in here. So yeah, so it will warn you that app connections and credential settings for live environment. So if they're not set, it will warn you. I have set for live environment apart from draft as well. So I can simply just say deploy. And if I deploy, then this will not only can I play with it in here, but now this agent becomes available to me. So if I go to agent chat, then this agent becomes available to me in here, and I can start to chat with it outside that, the development context. So now it becomes available, right? And you can even publicly share this URL and so on. So that's another bit, right? So that is, deploying it to SaaS. It's quite simple. Now let's get to see this MCP toolkit. So let's check this in, on the developer edition with, no, not with this. Let's check it in SaaS. So the documentation here is kind of fully says everything. So you can look at that. So I'm going to just use this reference GitHub MCP server in here. This is the normal MCP server configuration. So that's the server, this one. So, so for this, you will have to, not here, sorry, back. Oops. Yeah, so in here, you can see several things, right? So we've largely been operating in this agent builder environment. So you can also see, connections, like those ServiceNow things that we created, they are part of connections. We can go there and we can see all of that as well. So just wanted you to be aware of this before I go further. So these are the things in here. Now here, let's go to this one of these agents. So like, let's go to this agent. So when you add a tool in here, you can see a bunch of options. You can add from the catalog of existing tools. You can add from local instance things that you've imported into this instance. You can create a new flow, or you can import external. This you can import from OpenAPI specification format if you have them, or you can use MCP server. If you click on this MCP server, now you can add an MCP server or manage. Let's see. So I have this already in here, but you can add one. And it's simple. You can just specify the name of the server, the brief description. And if this server is going to need some sort of a connection, like we are going to need for GitHub, we will need a connection, an application connection. So you will select the appropriate connection here and give the command and connect, and that's it. Then your server tools, MCP server tools will become available, and you can then just add them, search and add them appropriately in here, and then you can use them in here, right? So it's kind of simple that way. So that MCP server is kind of just as simple as that. Finally, I also wanted to just give a brief on this observability, which is also pretty straightforward. So in your local setup, you can just say, start my server with IBM telemetry like that, just with this additional parameter. And then you will have Langfuse available with your server and all those events available. Alternatively, if you want to do it in SaaS, then you can actually just say, using the CLI, you can say settings, observability, Langfuse, configure this. So if you have a Langfuse set up somewhere, then grab the secret key, the public key, and in this kind of a fashion, just run this command. Once you've run that, then if you try any of your agents, let's say we try this agent. So we go through this agent, and then as the agent is responding in various ways, then you will have sort of the observability, the full trace of that event available in here. So if I go to this, go to this project, go to its traces, we can see this. So we ran this customer care thing, right? So that's what got logged in here. So you can sort of, so we ran this Hindi thing in there. So you can see the full trace of this. So you can see what was the input, what was the output. Output details are, of course, available in here. You can specifically check at what was the inputs to the LLM and what was that LLM's output. If you are invoking tools, you can click on that and you can see what was the input to this tool and what was the output of this tool. So you can fully see full agent execution trace in here. And this comes pretty handy in when we are debugging. Why is something failing? Which step is it failing on? So it comes very handy in those situations for analytics. So I will stop here. Let me know if and you have all of this. I'll share this. You have this available for doing all of these things that I walked us through by yourselves. Let me know if there's any question.
Thank you for explaining the steps much more clearly, Pankaj. So, participants, if you have any questions, I will open the floor for you to unmute yourself, and you can raise your hand and ask the question, unmute yourself and ask the question. you have any questions.
Hello, sir. I'm Gokula Krishnan.
Hi.
I have a small doubt regarding the submission in Kaggle competition. So, what are all the requirements we should submit in Kaggle, sir?
I'm sorry. That would be better answered by somebody else. I can check and get back to you on that. Unfortunately, I'm not that well versed on the Kaggle part, and so
Let me take this question. Okay. So yeah, hi Gokul and others. So the Kaggle doesn't allow running the like storing the Watsonx keys and all. So it doesn't allow running your code through what Kaggle. So for this particular track, you will be executing your code in the container that you create and configure as Pankaj has described, and the submission will be through GitHub Classroom. So we'll share the instructions for GitHub Classroom and the link to the GitHub Classroom invite on the Kaggle competition page. So the Kaggle competition page in this track is just for sharing information, not for running code or not for submission. So submission will be through GitHub Classroom. We'll share the instructions and the link and invite soon. So by the end of this week, we'll share all this information. In the meanwhile, you can do the development on your local systems and test out your solutions. And submissions will be done through GitHub Classroom, and then we'll evaluate through GitHub itself.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And also, I have a small doubt. What should we submit, sir, in that? So it will
Right.
be used for us.
Yes, so you need to submit all your code datasets that you used if they are local datasets. Otherwise, you include the link to the dataset if they are public datasets, and build files. That means if there is a make file to for anyone, the jury will be or the judges will be looking at your GitHub repo, and they will try to clone your repo and run the code themselves. So it should have a build file, and it will be good if you can also include some demo video, that is a screen recording, and you can also include some outputs or the you know screenshots of your solution as a report.
I have uh, I have one small suggestions here. So the observability part that I right the last part that I took us through. If you're gonna create an agent and if you're gonna run some data set on that agent, uh, make sure you add the observability, and that way you'll end up having full traces of what was actually executed, and that would be a very good artifact. The dump of the traces would be a very good artifact to submit, like JSON-L exports can be taken of the Langfuse traces, and those Langfuse traces can fully describe when you ran a data set exactly what happened step by step on the agent.
Are there any more questions?
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Yuvashri. So, is this mandatory to use this IBM tool, sir? Because my agent should is the agent which should work offline, sir. Is it possible that when I develop in this IBM tool, will it work in offline?
Yes, the whole developer edition purpose, setting up the local environment, etc. The whole purpose is to run it in an offline fashion. Of course, however, if your model is going to be, if you're going to be using a model, right? If your agent is going to be using a model, then the models are likely going to be accessed from Watsonx. If you don't want to do that, if you want to use Olama, for example, if you want to even host the models locally, that's possible using ADK. You can actually go through Olama.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Whether we will be receiving the participation certificate for this?
Sorry, participation certificate for what? For attending this session?
No, sorry, sir. For Kaggle competition.
Yeah, so if you have submitted your solution, then you will receive a participation certificate. If you don't submit your solution, then of course you won't get a participation certificate. So you'll have to submit a solution, working solution on GitHub Classroom, and then you will receive a participation certificate.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I
Hello, sir.
guess there are. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is Aditya, and I wanted to ask like if there is any issues that you face with regard to IBM or any technical, uh, if any we face any issues and we need to ask someone regarding this, like any point of contact like from IBM side regarding the cloud agentic things.
Yeah. So on Kaggle, there is a discussion tab. So you can use that discussion feature on Kaggle competition to ask any questions, and the experts from IBM will answer those. So you
Okay, yeah,
can
thank you.
use the Kaggle platform for that purpose.
Sure, yeah. Sir, also, is there any limitation on the usage of this in within the free trial? Like, there's a 30 days of free trial. So, are there any limitations, sir, as such in this?
Uh, there are rate limits um, per day number of things, but unless you are running something that's really massive, like more than like 10,000 calls per really small unit of time, etc., you should not run into problems.
Yes, sir. Is there any way to know that the remaining number of calls that we can do? Like, can we know that, sir?
So if you're on your 30-day trial, you can look at the plan. The plan details would be available against the Orchestrate service, and in those details, uh, all the limits typically are mentioned: number of tokens or number of calls per unit time, etc. So these rate limits are typically there. So I'm not sure in the trial which plan are you using. Are you using the light plan? Is there a standard plan? So basically, based on the plan, there are these limits are decided.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Um, it's good evening. This is Gausia Begum. I actually want, yeah, I actually wanted to ask that I've already started working on my project with some other website, so I can still use it and not use the IBM thing to make my agents and everything. It's still okay to use those in my competition, right?
Again, I think maybe one of the hosts could take this question. I'm not that well versed with specifically the competition part of it. I'm more of an expert on the IBM's Agentic platform. So if you have a question related to that, please feel free to ask questions that are specifically for the competition organization. It would be better asked through that formal channel.
So, Gausia, maybe you can post this query on Kaggle and we'll get someone to answer this query. Yeah, Kaggle discussion you can use for this purpose.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So one announcement. I hope all of you are able to, join the Kaggle competition, and all team members for all. Like, even if your team members are not able to join, check your emails. We have sent revised invites for those who couldn't access earlier based on the data that you have filled in. And if you are still not able to access it today, then drop us an email, and then we'll, with the details of your project, then we'll look it up. Okay, so I think we can close the session now. Thanks again, Pankaj, for taking us through the Watsonx platform and answering the queries. And we hope to see a good participation on the submissions. And it's fine if you didn't follow all of it as you go along developing the solution and trying out the Watsonx platform. Probably you can go back to the recording and see the steps and follow them. We'll be sharing the recording on YouTube immediately after this call, so you can go back to specific sections and refer to them. And thank you for your enthusiastic participation in the hackathon, and hope to have some interesting submissions as part of Track-3. Thank you and have a nice evening. We'll end the call now.